Okay, so with inequalities, let's start, when we talk about quadratic inequalities, let's start by looking at a parabola. Okay, I'm just going to show you a very simple parabola, y to x squared plus x minus 6. Okay, if you have to draw it, we're going to look at how to draw this. Okay, but for now, I'm just going to show you kind of what it would look like. Okay, so obviously if you put it equal to 0, 0 equal to x squared plus x minus 6, you can say it's x plus 3 and x minus 2, and then you get x equal to negative 3 or x equal to 2. Okay, you all agree? That is just solving it. Okay, when you solve it, x plus 3, x minus 2 plus 3x minus 2x gives you plus 1x. So x is negative 3 or x is equal to 2. So if you think if that is your x values, remember we said these are your roots, your x-intercepts. Okay? So basically, if you want to make a rough sketch, you can say at negative 3, 1, 2, negative 3, and at 1, 2, and then the y-intercept, we're going to talk about this more later, is negative 6. So it's going to be somewhere around there. And then the middle, if that's your 1x intercept, that's your other one, then the middle would be like 2.5 this way. So it's going to look something like this. I'm just making a rough sketch that you can just get an idea. So you get a parabola basically. Y to x squared plus x minus 6 is going to make a parabola that looks something like this, with an x-intercept at negative 3 and an x-intercept at 2. Okay. That's just a bit of background into what's now coming with inequalities. When you think of inequalities now, okay? If we say, now this is the parabola. Now if we say, instead of all of the things I did here now, if we just say, where is x squared plus x minus 6? Let's write it a little bit this way. Where is x squared plus x minus 6 bigger or equal to 0? Let's say that's the question. Now it's not equal to 0, it's bigger or equal to 0. So now it's called an inequality. Okay? Where is the graph bigger or equal to 0? Now if you look at the graph, this part here is where the graph is bigger or equal to 0. This part here is where the graph is bigger or equal to 0. It's positive. And this part in the middle is where the graph is negative. So that is very important to understand. The graph is negative, which means smaller than 0 when it's below the x-axis. Okay, here's your x-axis, here's your y-axis. And now if the graph is below the x-axis, it means the graph is smaller or equal to 0. It's below, it's negative. When the graph is above the x-axis, we say the graph is bigger or equal to 0. It's positive. Okay? So when we have an inequality and you have to solve it, you can start in the same way. You can say, okay, let's say x plus 3, x minus 2 bigger or equal to 0. Then we can say, we call it the critical values. The critical values is what will make it 0. Okay, so x equal to negative 3 or x equal to 2 is what will make it 0. So when you solve an inequality, you first check what will happen if I make it equal to 0. Okay? X must be negative 3 or x is equal to 2. So you first find your roots. Okay, that's what I showed you a bit earlier now. But now if this is the question, you still do the same thing, but now you don't want to know where is it equal to 0, you want to know where is it bigger or equal to 0. So now you can say, for this graph, you don't have to sketch it, that's also just for you to understand it better. But for this graph to be bigger or equal to 0, x must be this, it must be this part, x must be smaller or equal to negative 3. Okay, because you have to go back to go this way, or x must be bigger than 2, that part, or x must be bigger or equal to 2. Then that's your solution. Okay? If x is smaller or equal to negative 3, that means when I'm going back, where is the graph going? As I go back, the graph goes up. What happens when I go forward? If I go this way, the graph is going down. at x equal to negative 2, the graph is there. At x equal to negative 1, the graph is there. At x equal to 1, the graph is there. So this whole part between negative 3 and 2, the graph is negative. Okay, so if the question was, where is x squared plus x minus 6 smaller than 0? Where is this graph smaller than 0? You would say it's this part, which is between x bigger than negative 3, or bigger than negative 3, and x smaller than 2. So when you want to know where's the graph smaller than 0, it's between negative 3 and 2. So x is between negative 3 and 2, and then your answer just looks like that. So always with inequalities, it's one of the two. They're either going to ask you where is it big or equal to 0, or they're going to ask you where is it smaller. Okay, so that was the answer for the first one, smaller than 0, or they can swap the equal sign. They can make this one, where is it bigger than 0, then you don't put in the equal sign as well. You just put in bigger, here x is smaller than negative 3, x is bigger than 2. If they ask you here, where is the graph smaller or equal to 0, then you say it's x bigger or equal to negative 3, and smaller or equal to 2. And that's basically quadratic inequalities. Okay, we're going to obviously look at more of them, but this would be the answer if this was the question, and if this was the question, then this would be the answer. Then it's on the outsides. Otherwise, it's on the inside if it's smaller. Okay.